Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So in this video I'll be explaining you the next three important characteristics of aggregates like shape, texture and strength. So do watch my earlier video where I have discussed about classification, source and size of the aggregates. So first one, shape. So what is shape? Shape of the aggregate is an important factor because it affects the workability of the concrete in which this aggregate is used. Indeed, it's very difficult to measure the shape of the aggregate, which is derived from various types of rocks. Not only the characteristics of the parent rock, but also the type of the crusher used will also influence the shape of the aggregates. Example, the rocks available around Pune in India are found to give slightly flaky aggregates, whereas good granite rocks which are found in Bangalore are supposed to give cubical aggregates. So, the shape of the aggregate is very much influenced by the type of the crusher and also the reduction ratio. Reduction ratio means the ratio of size of material fed into the crusher to the size of the finished product. Many rocks contain planes of parting or jointing, which is one of the important characteristics of its formation. It also reflects the internal petrographic structure of the rock. As a consequence of these tendencies, slates and shales commonly produce flaky form of aggregates, whereas granite, basalt, and quartzite usually give uh, around more or less equidimensional particles. Similarly, quartzite, which do not possess any cleavage plane, since it's a metamorphic rock, it will produce cubical shape of aggregates. From the point of economy in cement requirement for a given water cement ratio, rounded aggregates are generally preferable to angular aggregates. On the other hand, the additional cement required for angular aggregates is an offset to some extent by the higher strength and sometimes by greater durability as a result of the interlocking texture of the hardened concrete and higher bond characteristic between the aggregate and the cement paste. Flat particles in concrete aggregates, which will have particularly objectionable influence on the workability, requirement of cement, strength, and durability. Hence, in general, excessively flaky aggregates make the concrete very poor. Generally, classification of aggregates on the basis of shape is as follows. So, we have four categories on which the shape is generally talked about. Okay, so you can see the first one is rounded. So the aggregates are completely worn or completely they take the shape of complete round shape. That shape comes out due to attrition. Examples from where you can get rounded aggregates is like seashores, river shores, etc. Whereas second classification is all about irregular or partly rounded. They are naturally irregular and they are partly shaped by attrition, having little rounded edges. Examples like pit sands and gravels, etc. Next, we have angular aggregates. They possess well defined edges formed at the intersection of roughly planar faces. Examples could be crushed rock of all types. And flaky, as discussed just now, it is usually more in lengthwise and less in thickness wise. All laminated rocks could be the examples or could yield flaky aggregates. But one has to remember that angular aggregates are superior to rounded aggregates. Based on two major points, we say that angular aggregates are superior to rounded aggregates and why one should use angular aggregates in concrete. angular aggregates generally exhibit a better interlocking effect in concrete, and hence it makes superior to rounded aggregates, especially when concrete is used in pavements and roads. Also, the total surface area of rough textured angular aggregates is more than smooth rounded aggregates for a given volume. Therefore, by having greater surface area, angular aggregate will show higher bond strength than rounded aggregates. The higher surface area of angular aggregate with rough texture requires more water for a given workability than rounded aggregates. So one has to remember that for strength point of view, for interlocking point of view, angular aggregates are considered to be more important than rounded aggregates. So in this screen, you can see a rounded aggregate, and next you can see partly rounded, and then you can see flaky and angular aggregates. Right, let's go for the next characteristic of aggregates called texture. What do you mean by texture? Surface texture or texture is a property or it is a measure of which depends upon the relative degree to which a particle surface is polished or dull or smooth or rough. Surface texture generally depends upon the hardness, grain size, pore structure, structure of the rock, and the degree to which forces are acting on the rock so as to make it smooth or rough. Hard, dense, fine grained materials will generally have smooth fracture surface, and out of experience and various lab experiments, it is proven that the addition between the cement paste and the aggregates is influenced by various complex factors in addition to the physical and mechanical properties. As surface smoothness increases, contact area decreases, and hence a highly polished particle will have less bonding with the cement paste. Why? Because due to extreme smoothness, your friction between the cement paste and the aggregates will be less, and therefore the binding would not be proper. Hence, more smooth is the aggregate, less is the bonding capacity. So they are inversely proportional. So for a good addition to be in between a cement paste and the aggregate, there should be roughness. So the aggregates must be rough. Smooth aggregates are not helpful for us in this criteria. And also, with the increase in roughness, surface area will also increase, which will increase the bond strength. And you can see this table shows the various types of surface textures that are possible for a aggregate with examples. So around 5 types of textures we can observe: glassy, smooth, granular, crystalline, and honeycombed. So examples for glassy texture are black flint, and for smooth texture is slate, marble. For granular texture is sandstone. For crystalline, it is fine crystalline nature, it is basalt, medium dolerite, and very coarse crystalline structures, your gneiss, granite, gabbro, etc. And honeycombed means which has porous nature inside, which is which is having high number of pores or highly permeable, is like your pumice or scoria. Next, let's talk about before getting actually into the strength, I would like to add one more point here. We can generally measure surface texture in many number of ways, out of which we can divide the methods probably into two types, which is direct and indirect method. Direct methods generally include making a cast of the surface and magnifying a section of this, and tracing the irregularities by drawing a fine point over the surface and drawing a trace magnified by the mechanical, optical, or electrical means, getting a section through the aggregates and examining the magnified image. Indirect methods include measurement of the degree of dispersion of light falling on the surface, determining the weight of fine powder required to fill up the interstices of the surface to a truly smooth surface, and also the rock surface is held against a rubber surface at a standard pressure, and the resistance to the flow of air between the two surfaces can be measured. This is how you could measure texture or surface texture of aggregates. So it's of two methods, direct and indirect. Now let's get into the next characteristic called strength. So when we generally talk about strength, strength will always depend upon the bond between the cement paste and also the aggregate. As I've mentioned earlier, we do not imply or we do not depend upon the strength of the parent rock from which the aggregate is produced, because the strength of the parent rock does not exactly represent the strength of the aggregate in concrete. Since concrete is an assembly of individual pieces of aggregate which is bound together by a cementing material, its properties are purely based on the quality of the cement paste. This strength is also dependent, as told, on the bond between the cement paste and the aggregate. If either the strength of the paste or the bond between the paste and the aggregate is low, the concrete will be of poor quality, and hence it will be resulting in a concrete which is having lower strength. But when cement paste of good quality is provided and its bond when the aggregate is satisfactory, then the mechanical properties of the rock or aggregate will influence the strength of the concrete. Okay, so what I would like to conclude is both strong aggregate as well as good cement paste will contribute to good binding capacity. Good cement paste is not sufficient. Similarly, good or strong aggregate is not sufficient. Both of them play equal role in strength attribution. Okay, the strength of the aggregates can be tested in three ways: by aggregate crushing test, by aggregate impact test, and by aggregate abrasion test. Let's get into aggregate crushing test. This test is generally done to measure the resistance of the aggregate against crushing loading or compressive loading. So the figure what you can see on the screen is the crushing test apparatus, and the procedure is like generally we take aggregate which is passing through 12.5 mm sieve and which is written on a 10 mm sieve, and then we place the aggregate into the cylindrical mold what you can see here on the screen. So this cylindrical mold, it is completely filled with aggregates, it's compacted, and then you place this another small mold on it so as to ensure when you're placing this cylindrical mold inside the compressor testing machine, a uniform load distribution will take place. This complete setup will be placed inside the compressor testing machine and you apply load. So after the specimens fail, you try to stop it and just take out we generally apply 40 tons of load on it. So after that we remove the specimen and we try to sieve it through 2.36 mm sieve. So generally the crushing value is expressed in percentage, which is percentage with respect to the original weight to passing weight. Okay, and generally one has to remember that the crushing value should be less than 30% for roads and pavements and less than 45% for structures. Next, coming to aggregate impact test. So this test is usually done to test your aggregates against impact loading or sudden loading. Toughness is what we generally require. Several attempts to develop a method for test of aggregates impact value has been made. The most successful one is the one in which a sample of standard aggregate is kept in a mold which is subjected to 15 blows of a metal hammer which is around 14 kgs. So right now we can see on the screen this part is your hammer, which will be around 14 kgs of weight. This will be the base mold which will be placed here, and the aggregates whichever is passing from to 12.5 mm and which is written on 10 mm will be filled in this mold, and you subsequently lift the hammer and drop the hammer for 15 times. After 15 blows, you take out the crushed sample, aggregate sample, and you pass it through 2.36 mm sieve, and later on we calculate the percentage of impact. Okay, so the ratio of the weight of the fine, which is finer than 2.36 mm size, means which is passing through 2.36 mm, is taken to the weight of the total sample. That's expressed as aggregate impact percentage, and the IS code confining to aggregate impact is IS 283 1970. This code specifies that the aggregate impact value should not exceed 45% by weight for aggregates used in concrete other than wearing surface, and 30% by weight for aggregate used as wearing surfaces, likewise in runways, roads and pavements. Next we have aggregate aberration test. So apart from testing aggregate with respect to its crushing and impact, testing of the aggregate with respect to its resistance to wearing and tearing is also important. So that because aggregates are used in road constructions, warehouse floors and pavement constructions. Three tests are in common to test aggregate for aberration resistance. One is Dewal's attrition test. Next we have Doris aberration test, and we have Los Angeles aberration test. So coming to Dewal's attrition test, in this test you can see there are two cylinders. So what we do is around 2.5 kg and 2.5 kg sample of aggregates is poured into the two cylinders, and we put spherical steel balls of known weight into that, and we rotate the cylinders for around 10,000 times, and then after 10,000 revolutions you stop the machine and take out the crushed sample and sieve it through 1.7 mm size sieve, and the attrition value is expressed as percentage of original material taken to the material which is passing through 1.7 mm sieve. Okay, this test will be confining to IS 2386 part 4, and if this test could not be done, you can go for a Los Angeles test. Next one is Doris aberration test. So actually this test is not covered by Indian standard specifications. This test involves in subjecting a cylindrical specimen, means the aggregate specimen will be taken in the form of a cylinder of size height 25 centimeters and dia 25 centimeters, and which will be placed exactly at the center of the machine, and it will be kept under rotation, and when it is rotating, sand is sprinkled onto it. So the loss in weight of the cylindrical specimen after 1000 revolutions is noted, and then we check the hardness by the formula 20 minus loss in grams by 3. So a good rock should show an aberration value of not less than 17, and a rock with a value of less than 14 will be generally considered to be poor. Next we have Los Angeles aberration test. So this test was developed to overcome some of the defects found in Dewal's test. So Los Angeles test is characterized by the quickness with which a sample of aggregate may be tested. So the application of this method is to all types commonly used aggregates, and hence this method is very popular. Yeah, so this test will involve taking a standard quantity of aggregate, and we have abrasive charge. This abrasive charge quantity depends upon the size of the aggregates you are taking. So it will depend upon the abrasive charge will depend upon the size of the aggregate. So we have a chart for it. So as of now I'm not getting into much detail about this crushing test, impact test and aberration test. Why? Because I'll be dealing it in the concrete lab playlist, so that's the reason I'm just explaining on in a general sense. So this abrasive charge and aggregate whatever you're taking are poured into that aberration machine, what you can see, and then it is set up for revolutions. This revolutions also will be based on the size of the aggregate you are taking. After selected number of revolutions are completed, then the aggregate specimen is sieved through 1.7 mm sieve. So the loss in weight expressed as percentage of the original weight will give you the aberration value, and the aberration value should not be more than 30% if the aggregate is used as a top surface or a wearing surface, and should not be more than 50% if it is used other than a wearing surface. Okay, so that's all about three characteristics what I have explained today. So hope you understood the video. Thank you for watching.